So welcome back to Fuel Your Soul, episode 4. On this episode, we're going to discuss magical moments and mindful gifts. Both are very important on our journey, and we've been getting some real magical moments over the past few weeks, so definitely got to share those. And then our thoughts for what mindful gifts look like. You really have to understand the person. That is the biggest tip that I have, understanding the person that you are gifting. A lot of times we may give people things that they may not really love too much. Sam had a perfect example of gifting someone and then getting feedback from another person so that she knew how to gift him in the future. So with that being said, welcome to Fuel Your Soul.
We are grateful that you are joining us again and taking part of this journey with us. This has been talk about magical moments. This has been an amazing journey, and we've had some great, I have to laugh because for those of you who join us after the show, we'll enjoy all the bloopers and all the fun moments and real life scenarios that happens to just literally sit down and hit record. You would think it's super easy, and in theory, it should be, there's that dirty S word, yeah. It should be that easy, but it's not, because we want to make sure that the video quality, the audio quality, our brains are even in the right frame of mind to show up with that good positive energy to be here for you guys. And so all those magical moments, it actually takes a lot. And I guess, to be fair, maybe you know people in the industry where you see the backstage production, yeah, right? So if we want to be real and authentically show up,
right,
and we are, and it also takes technology and production and stuff like that to think through.
It takes a lot, yeah.
Yeah.
And so trying to get everything on the same accord is a lot, because, you know, we're working with multiple different types of devices, and you know, those have to be in alignment, one of our words, and like she said, we have to be in alignment, and no matter what we've been through throughout the day, we still have to show up. So, yeah.
That's a good point, though, not to interrupt, sorry. Yeah. I think that's important. I believe each time we've recorded something, there's been something in our lives that's been a disruption, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll say.
Yeah.
But in reality, if we think about it, isn't that life?
Yeah. It's full of hurdles, and it's full of opposition. It's full of obstacles. And one of the things that I mindfully do when I'm talking to people is I shift the conversation, or I hit the brakes, or I, make sure that we don't go down a certain path too far, because it becomes this idea of talking about all of the problems that may or may not happen. So with me, it's just realizing where we are, and I think that's powerful throughout the day, to just say, okay, where am I? Because if you're thinking about all the could haves, what may happen, what may not happen, you'll spend about an hour talking about all of that when you could spend that same time and energy being focused. This week, I think we did really good. We put a plan together. Now, last week, just to be transparent about what we were talking about, we had a meeting, and we pushed it back, and it went longer than expected. So we were both yawning, and if I yawned and she yawned, and vice versa, and we were like, okay, we're going to end this. But it was such a good time, because we were very creative in that meeting. We set some goals in that meeting, and we achieved every one of them that we set. And we actually surprised ourselves. I mean,
we showed up.
Yeah, we showed up.
Sometimes you simply need to show up.
Yes, and something I said was, your reward is on the other side of obedience. You know what I mean? And if you put God in the picture, I can't even talk today. Thank you, Lord. When you put God in the picture and you're being obedient to His will for your life, you don't understand where the magical moments then come, and it's a guide. It's like the little signs that tell you, or the breadcrumbs, or whatever the case may be, however you want to use that term, like whatever example you want to use for you, the little breadcrumbs that are showing you you're on the right path. You know what I mean? And the magical moments are like aha moments and gifts to say, hey, you're on the right path, you're doing the right thing. It's confirmation. Yeah.
I have a little, and this may be one of our membership moments, but for those who know me and my backstory, magical moments, will understand what I'm actually looking at on the other side of the Connect More branding is 44. And that has such a magical story behind it. So this is a little shout out for those who were a part of my life journey. And number 44 was our saving grace to get us to the finish line.
And that's actually my age right now. So.
What?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. See,
so we'll talk about 44.
Moment. Okay, wait, and see, this is where I'm like, wait, do we need to cover up any kind of branding other than, anyway, if not?
No, I don't think we do. Yeah, and so, yeah, but going back to our magical moment, I just think, what do we want to say about magical moments other than what we said so far?
Here's another reality. I looked up in that moment like, whew, okay, let's reset. And this is the busy working mom perspective. I'm like, wow, look at the dust I need to clean off of there. Like that's real life.
Oh yes. Have you guys seen any of those funny videos where people are really giving you a day in the life of like ADHD and like the guy is like, okay, look at the phone, and then it's like, oh my God, it's so dusty, and then he does that, and then the dust turns into him taking the trash out, but in the middle of taking the trash out, he walks away and starts the laundry, but then never actually starts it. So nothing actually gets started because you keep on getting the squirrel syndrome. The squirrel, the hummingbird, something that takes your attention away from where you're supposed to be. So yeah, that's life. And so going back to our story about how life shows up and where we show up, it's really like us taking control of our day. And I think that's something that you do every step of the way. I mean,
with a tool, you have multiple tools that help you.
Yeah, multiple tools help you. I mean, and you just have to realize like, okay, what is your why, for example? Like, what is my why?
Right.
And if you always recenter to your why, then you know, why am I going to the grocery store? Why am I making this phone call? For example, me, when I get on phone with what some call bill collectors and I call financial partners, or anywhere where I need to make a customer service phone call, I find myself saying, and I've been doing this for a very long time, but I really purposefully say to myself, okay, what is the goal of this call?
Right.
So when I'm in a conversation with someone, if it starts to get heated on the other end, I remember my goal for the call. It's not to go back and forth with you. It's not to correct you. It's not to let you know that I don't owe or whatever the case may be. The whole goal of my call is my why.
Yes.
And so my focus is always on that. And so even if the person may be disrespectful or even if I don't know what's going on in their life at that point.
Right.
I don't know what they're dealing with. And so
reacting versus responding.
Exactly. And so I don't want to cause them to have a further spiral. And I don't want to argue with you. I have a goal with this phone call. So my goal takes precedence over any interaction or any disrespect I might feel, even on the road. I mean, sometimes I'll get frustrated with people. I may say some choice words, but I don't jump out the car, and because that's not. Then we both won't get to where we're going at that point. So,
and that's part of that. I was gonna say, and again, we're working on all the great swag and things that we use around our house and in our life. But like my word was fuel, and when I get in those situations, I'm thinking, what's fueling my decision?
Right.
Am I gonna say choice words? And I do. And then I'm fueling myself back to, is it positive fuel, negative fuel?
Right.
How does it help me reset? And so I have these little, back to magical moments. We can create those magical moments because it's a coaster, right? I have coffee every morning or tea, hot tea. And so I see this one word every single day.
Mm-hmm.
It's in different locations. Shaun, you've seen it in the kitchen, right? We have a kitchen board that has the whole family's, everybody's one word for the year, and it's something. So almost every room we go to in our house or our vehicle, we're surrounding we're being strategic.
Yeah,
and we're putting magical moments in there to help us reset, recalibrate.
Yep, recalibrate was on my mind when you were saying that. Yeah, because it is a journey, and we still, at the end of the day, are an author or the main author and the main character in this story that we call life. And so again, I'll probably say this through multiple episodes. I think I've already said it before, but if you look at your life as a book, we look at each day as a page in a chapter which is your year. So every day of your life, you have decisions to make. What story are you writing every day? You know, and again, one of the main examples is, am I having a bad day, genuinely, or am I having 5 bad minutes that I am milking into a bad day? And so we always have the moment, and I love that because that gives you the option to recalibrate in every scenario. I mean, I think we have to do that at least once an hour just to figure out what we're doing. I mean, when you're at work, you have 8 hours to do what you're doing, or 9, or however, you know, me as an entrepreneur, us as entrepreneurs, we're always on. I'm always on. So I still have to prioritize my time. Do I want to get in a rabbit hole of doing this one thing for 3 hours? Sometimes I do, but then some days I have so many tasks to do that I have to be on a schedule and say, okay, I only have an hour for this. Yeah. Even with our meetings sometimes, even with our recording sometimes, it's like, okay, we have this window, and that's why we were so... Okay, so that's why we were so strategic.
God, coming back to like a lazy Susan.
Yeah. If we had a whiteboard, all of this would make more sense to you guys. But we were so strategic because we both had very tight weeks. And we said, okay, well, Monday we have this amount of time together. Wednesday we had time. And then Friday we had time. So we really had to be intentional about how we spent each day. And we did it. And here we are.
And to that point, thank you for saying that, because that made me realize I think I forget how much I use the human code framework and method in my day. I have it color coded to all 4 colors. So I can literally look at the week, the day, the week, the month, and I can see how much, I can see metrics, right? It's like an infographic. I can see if I've got enough, if I'm over allocated in one zone versus the other.
Oh, I like that. So
like on Fridays, Friday is my Fellowship Friday day in general. So I expect to have more green blocks in my Friday. Breakfast, you know, before early morning, lunch, and evening. Those are key areas where I focus on people and relationships.
Oh, I love that.
It's my Friday fellowship.
Right.
I try not to schedule as many meetings that are just deep planning or decision-making meetings unless they have to. That usually I shift left. So during, for sure, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm expecting to see more red. Right. And weeks or months or a year before, in my quarterly planning, I see more blue spots, time blocks, spaces in my calendar, because that shows me I'm doing long-term strategic planning, so that when we get closer, then I'll know who needs to be a part of it. Right. So I'll know, and then what I think we fail to do enough of maybe in the U.S. is the more yellow, which is dreaming, which is vision boarding, vision mapping, things that bring you joy and fun, because it's relative, right? My version of fun may be very different than your version of fun, right? So I know now, after many years of figuring out what didn't work well, I know how to allocate yellow blocks in my calendar to say, oh, I'm going to refuel myself, I'm going to reset, I'm going to bring some more fun in those moments of my time. So like the week of Mother's Day is always allocated to beach time.
See, I love that.
It's my default. I don't even have to think about it. But I had to think about it years ago, because we needed to do different things to figure out, this really doesn't bring me as much joy. I don't have as many magical moments when we go here or when we do this. But you have to try different things even. You have to be open-minded, I think, is really what it is.
Yeah, and I know, because we have conversations, a lot of people say, I don't like that, I don't eat that, I don't, especially when it comes to food. And it's like, have you had it before? Oh, yes, when I was young. Okay, but it's been 20 years, it's been 30 years, whatever it is. And it's like, and I think that what you're saying is, again, taking control and being intentional about your life. And something I always say, too, is either you, and I've got this from someone else. So when I say, it's usually I've picked it up along the way in life. But the idea of saying either you control your day or your day will control you. And it's basically that simple. A lot of things I don't believe are just black and white or cut and dry. But some things like that, I do think it's either, I mean, some days, and then again, there are days where you want to let the day run you because you don't feel like thinking. But if you planned your life out in such a way then that day will still go align with the way that you set up your life, if that makes sense.
And let's talk about that for a second, because I have encountered many scenarios in people who hear that word plan and it is a trigger word. They don't want to plan. They want to be agile. They want to go with the flow. And I think you need both. Right. I don't think, it depends on, are you in your strategic zone or are you in your tactical, like, got to get stuff done, make it happen zone? Because they're two different places to be.
Right.
And I think how you can get into that infinite mindset, fixed versus growth into truly infinite mindset, is to be able to become so aware that wait, I'm thinking in one of my 4 zones of genius and I'm in my strategic mindset. I may be actually dreaming of planning something 10 years from now.
Right. And
then I have to snap within 2.5 seconds into tactical day in the life of, I got to start dinner.
Yeah, but you said, like, that's how it works. I mean, life still happens with how,
Yeah, I don't have to start dinner. I'm so grateful.
Yeah. But, yeah, right. I can do that. But, no, but it's like you say, it really is that. And that's kind of what I was getting at, too, because when you're planned enough, your day kind of does still reflect all the planning that you put in it.
You can actually flow.
Yeah. So now you don't have to think, like when we do events or whatever, doing event planning for years and doing special events, there would be people like us, my shout out to Tanisha, my friend and sister for years, and we've done, special events for Russell Kamorley Simmons. We did them for Macy's. We did them with so many things, and she still is on that road. And I am, in a way, when I do personal chef and catering. But there's a lot of planning that goes into that event day. And so the day of the event, it may look like we're not doing too much, but we have done a lot of work to make this day as fluid as it looks. And like we were talking about earlier, when it comes to behind the scenes, it may be a mess behind the scenes.
Hot mess.
Yeah, but you in the front of house would never see that. You don't, because what matters to us is that, for example, if it was a baby fat fashion show back then, you've seen a seamless show. You don't know if outfits were falling apart in the back, or if people were trying to rip clothes off to get into the next look, or whatever drama was going on with pieces. You wouldn't know because it came out seamless. And that is when we're doing event planning. But what we want now, and especially what we're talking about, is for our life to reflect what we show. So my word, like her word is fuel for the year. My word is authenticity, because showing up and being my authentic self, which is like full of love, full of integrity, full of giving, and having a purpose-driven mindset. That is my authentic self. And so I look for opportunities to stay authentic. And then even when I'm being called out on something, it is to reflect and to say, like, oh, yeah, well, you know what? I could take ownership of that better, or I could have handled the situation differently, whatever that looks like, just to continuously reflect on my word, which is authenticity. Like, you don't want to have a word and then you just do the opposite, or you don't show up.
I feel like it balances you, right?
Yeah.
It's like it brings it back to that center of focus.
Yeah.
And then, to your point, how are you going to use the word? I mean, because that's what the one word is supposed to do. Mm-hmm. It is literally supposed to help you refocus, regroup, reset, all the re's.
Yeah, it does.
Just had a moment.
Yeah.
Where we're like, wait.
Yeah. Because we started to reflect and we will drift off and be in our minds, and a lot of work is going on up here. Like,
yeah.
But like, okay, we got to remember you guys are watching, so you can't see our thoughts.
Right,
but
exactly.
Yeah, but that's so true. And I think that you again always have like a beacon. Like it's like your GPS.
I love it.
Yeah, it's like your GPS. So if you're going and it says to you like, okay, you got 6 miles, so you really don't have to keep looking at it for the next 6 miles. But it reminds you where you are. So every so often you have to look back at your beacon and see where you are and say, okay, I'm here. Or so maybe I need to start shifting lanes because I'm going to get off soon. Yeah. Which reminds me of how you said, I like the idea of your days going in a certain color up to Thursday, because now Friday you're starting to take your foot off the gas.
That's right.
And
100%.
ease into your rest stop of the weekend.
Yes. And I had to learn, though, that was what worked for my schedule.
Yeah.
And my energy management. So I love that we talk about learning time management. I feel like once we get elements and tools in our toolbox for time management, level up, go to that next level and optimize yourself in energy management.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other thing.
Oh, yeah.
Time management is more tactical, I think. Energy management is, it's back to fueling your soul.
It is. And, and I just want to bring up one of the stories that you had with one of the, I think she's the lead in her business.
Okay.
And when you guys did the assessment and the group all kind of assumed that she was a red personality type.
That's right.
But she really wasn't.
Right.
And so when it comes to the energy management, she was forced to put out a lot of energy that really wasn't her normal zone of genius.
That's right.
But she had to do it because someone had to make sure the boat was driving. So I would love for you to kind of
take it from there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think back to magical. I'm trying to, in my mind, trying to stay true to the episode of Magical Moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you feel like things are not flowing and it's a lot more resistance to something you're trying to do, whether it's a project, whether it's your relationships, work, professional, personal life, it comes back to what zone of genius are you in. And maybe you need to step out of the zone that you're executing to more often.
Right.
Because think about that for a second. If we stayed in our yellow zone of genius and we were creative, doing all the fun, right, for us, fun things, we would just be in this infinite loop of creating new. But you got to do something with it.
Right.
We need to go into our blue zone of genius. We need to start planning, putting a blueprint together. We need to go to the third zone of genius, of green, which is collaborating with others. Who are all the people we need to invest time and energy with and ask for help, right? Who have connections, who have knowledge and wisdom. That's the other thing. I think we're sitting on this world of infinite knowledge and wisdom, and yet we think we have to figure it out for ourselves.
Right. But that's not relying on your tribe.
Exactly. Community.
Yep. The community is very important.
Exactly. That's the magical moment.
That's what I was going to say. Right.
Yeah.
Because then the magical moments also come with realizing that somebody has been doing. So that's my thing. Like, everybody had an aha moment, like, oh, that isn't normally her role, but she had to do that.
Right.
But then the magical moment,
Yeah.
the magical moment was saying, like, oh, you know what? Now that I realize that, maybe I could take some of that pressure off of you, and I can help you, so that, again, we are all finding balance there. And I think, because the magical moments are not always going to be like a bright sign, a neon sign that says magic moment. It'll be something subtle sometimes. It'll be a song playing. Yeah.
You can
but
feel
you get
it
that
in your soul.
Yeah. And that's where that comes from. Like, we were meeting when we initially met. It was songs that played. When we first did our first walk and talk, there were different signs that were like, okay, you guys are on the right path. And just like you said, those feelings of when I write something or send a text, or even if I'm scrolling and looking for artwork for one of our deliverables or whatever, and I find it, it's a magical moment that then says, oh my God, this is it. It feels right. No, it may not technically look right, but it feels right. And so, okay, now that we have the feeling of it being magic, how do we manifest it in a perfect way?
That's it. And think back. This was a big aha moment for me years ago. I witnessed children, how excited and true, pure happiness and joy that they would experience when either they learned to tie their shoe, or they picked something up, or they created an artwork. Whatever it was, there was a pattern. And the pattern was, I did it. Right? They would say, look, I did it. And it's like, at what point does life start to become, I don't want to say a struggle or difficult, but, in reality, a challenge. We start to lose that childlike joy, which is in my mind
sense of adventure.
It's sense of adventure and just happiness over the little things, right? So I started one year, my one word was joy, and it really snapped me back into every time I did something, I would say to myself, I did it. And it sounds, at first, when you start doing it, I'm not going to lie, it sounds a little silly, a little whatever. And that comes from judgment.
Yeah.
You know, I was judging myself. But as I pushed through it and kept doing it, and I found that it started this movement with others. And it created a safe space for others to say, if I'm going to be silly, they can be silly too. And let's just do it and say, I did it when you do something.
Right.
Side tangent, we won't go into it in this episode, but, you know, the after party show, we'll talk about David and I in our personal relationship of how we use that word, I did it, to get accolades from each other, to show each other how much we valued the little things that we were both doing throughout the day that we never saw each other do, like take out the trash or the dishes or whatever, put water in the dog bowl, something. They were tasks, right? They were things that chores, if you will. But after, 24 years of marriage, you just get into this routine, and I guess you just don't realize that it's easier to just accept that the things are happening. Even though you feel like every time you go to the trash can, you're the one taking the trash out. It's not true. It's emotion. It's not logic. So that's a little tangent, and we'll come back to that if you want to know more about how we helped save our relationship and our marriage by saying, I did it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I love that, And yeah, that sense of just accomplishment. I think we do become our biggest critics throughout life. We don't get the validation we seek a lot of times anymore. We see a lot of times, especially in corporate and different arenas, you have the politics, and you have people that will snatch your credit. Like, there are people that look for credit for things, and even though they may not be the most accomplished people, they seem like it because everyone knows what they're doing, and they make it. You could have done 10 tasks, you could have saved the company from the brink, and you could have done all those things. And somebody else could have said, oh, I brought in Dunkin' Donuts for everyone. And then it's like, oh, my God, that's such a great person. You're such an amazing worker. And you're like,
really?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and again, we can say this for probably one of our upcoming sessions because we've got that on the schedule, on the plan. But for me, that also brings back tall poppy syndrome. So I don't know if everyone's familiar with that, but just Google that and do some research on that. But that's some of the things I experience, and it relates back to what you're saying. So it's, again, educate yourself, inform yourself, be aware, start doing more awareness for these magical moments to create more magical moments, and then design your life, right? Create your blueprint according to creating more magical moments.
Right.
But you've got to know what brings you joy, authentic joy for you, not what someone has told you their joy is, not what you've grown up or learned on TV, media to say this is joyful stuff. Well, it might not be what brings you joy, right? Somebody might enjoy skydiving where the other person enjoys getting lost in a book for, that's whatever, drastically different definitions of fun and joy, and neither is right or wrong.
Right, but it's very much what is your truth. That's very important to know. So I also want to talk about the mindful gifting aspect of everything. And for me, it's really being very aware of other people, being intentional about being aware of other people. Because sometimes, like you said, you kind of take relationships for granted. And sometimes people will ask you, oh, what's your brother or sister's favorite food? And you're like, pizza. Just say that. But now, so much time has come or gone by, and you guys probably haven't had that conversation, and tastes change. And now their new favorite food may be sushi, or it may be Korean, or whatever it is. But I think in being intentional and staying abreast of each other is how we find out how to be mindfully gifting or mindful gifters, and making sure that we pay attention to each other. And you know, and I'll say that because Sam had told me her word was joy, and I thought it was joy this year too. And now when she says fuel, I had knew before this episode, but it was just the idea of at one point I had to recognize, oh my God, I was thinking the wrong word for her. It's actually fuel this year. Joy was a word, but she's transitioned to fuel now. And so it's like really just paying attention and intentionally like just picking up tidbits. I know we have people in our lives that will give us hints. Purposefully give you hints of what they want for their gift. But then there are some people that may be too shy. So my biggest tip for that is just to be intentionally listening, looking, even asking. Right now we're working on a dinner for someone who has been very instrumental in our culinary department. And I haven't known her long enough to know what her favorite foods are. So I put the word out to find out and see who can find out what her favorite dishes are, so that when we do prepare her wonderful celebratory meal, it is filled with things that she loves. So that is what I'm mindfully gifting right now. That's what I'm currently working on.
Art of gathering even more magical, right? So you're literally proving how you're going to help to co-create these magical moments.
Right, by being intentional and really trying to make sure that I'm not gifting what I feel that she would love. Oh, I'm a chef and so I know best. No, I still need to know what she loves. And then mind you, what if I pick something that she's definitely allergic to?
Right.
So you really have to, that's been my thing for the longest in terms of being a chef. I really have to know what are any dietary restrictions or considerations. What does the person like? What are they allergic to? All of that good stuff. So I have to really be mindful. How long is it going to take? I mean, as a chef, that's a big part of our life and our day. I mean, I think I am an internal clock now because it's always like, okay, it's been 5 minutes. Now I may be off by 30 seconds or so, but I kind of know, okay, I need to do this first because it's going to take 2 hours for this. This will only take 20 minutes. So as my day goes, I kind of am always constantly mapping it?
Yes.
Or creating it?
Yeah, because that's a perfect example. I mean, we've had a couple of times where we've fixed breakfast and, what are you going to do? If you're fixing breakfast and you're planning it out, like, are you real-time planning or have you thought through it before you bring everything out? Or did you start cooking something and then go open the fridge to get the next thing and realize, we don't have that ingredient.
Yeah,
so does that change your entire meal?
Right.
Is that real-time, real-time pivot kind of thing? And then eggs. If you're cooking eggs for breakfast.
They're always last. So you guys know, they're always last. They cook the fastest and they go cold and rubbery the fastest as well. So, or not so much rubbery, but they just are not as good. So if you want them to be super delicious, I think you would do those last. So my tips when I do courses or workshops is I always tell people to plan. It's just like a project planning situation. You look at your recipe, you see and make sure you have all the ingredients you need. You look at your steps to make sure that you can do them and there you won't get any surprises. And so when you get to step 4, you're like, oh, I was supposed to prepare this up here or whatever it is. It's just really mapping out and having a clear direction of where you're going. So that translates from
clarity.
Everything.
Clarity is so important.
Yeah. So our mindful gift to you guys for this episode is to check us out for the next episode and look out for our vision mapping event that we're going to be doing here in Mid-Hill, and that's coming up very soon. We will be putting flyers and everything out about it. We're going to talk about goals. We're going to talk about how to plan, how to look for, how to turn your dreams into goals, and to make this all digestible for you and give you sort of a roadmap to figuring out how to accomplish your dreams. Yeah. So with that being said, we're going to sign off for now, and we will catch up on Patreon and wherever else we have the after party.
Yeah. Thanks. Bye.